Hello all and welcome back to yet another map editor tutorial. This is episode 3 and today we're going to be starting with the next tab, the environment tab. And we're going to be talking about lighting and roads. We're going to start with the roads because lighting is a lot more intense and roads would be rather quick to explain. If you click roads, you don't have any tools in the bottom left, but if you move your mouse around, you'll see this red dot. So let's go ahead and click here on the beach for an example. And then click another dot over by the tree here. You'll see that a white line has been made. And maybe you would want to make it turn around a little bit. So we would do it something like this. And then kind of like that. We don't have the most space to work with. So let's just use that as an example. If you accidentally make a mistake with how you place this line, what you can do is just select one of these dots here and press delete and you can remove them. If we have it now like this, we can select the asset that we want. So let's go with white_1 and then we can click bake roads. And now we have basically made our road. You might see if you had foliage on the map that there's foliage on the road. You can just go into the terrain tab, foliage, and just lower your brush radius and then just hold down shift and remove them if you want to. Like that. Now that you've removed your foliage, if you want to do that, you can go back into the environment tab, click roads. Now, if you want to edit the road that you've already placed, you can just click it like this on one of the dots, either the blue one or the white one. And then you can click racetrack and you can bake the roads again and you'll see that it does change to that. I don't know why it made a big jump like that, but that's totally fine. You can switch them around and just click bake roads after you've made the selection, if that makes sense. You can also make changes here to the width. So if we want the road to be wider, we can put this on 10 and then click bake again and it makes the road way wider. Play around with these settings to get the road that you want. You can also add tracks if that's what you're into. And you can switch the width here to 10, for example, and just bake if you want to have really wide tracks. That is how you use the road tool. It's rather simple. Doesn't look the greatest always, so you will have to spend some time with this, but that's totally fine. So let's go ahead and remove this, just like this, because I don't want to use the road at all. Like that, and the road is gone. If you have any questions about the road tool in specific and want a more in-depth tutorial on this for some reason, then just let me know in the comments below and we'll be sure to make a video on it as soon as possible to help you out with the roads. Now the more interesting part. What I like the most when it comes to working on maps, it's the lighting. The lighting is what makes the map feel correct, if that makes sense. If you want to make a horror map, you gotta have a dark map. If you want to have a cozy and vibrant map, that's lighting as well. So if you go into the lighting tab in the bottom left, there's a lot of different options you have. If I have these two on 0, then we're not going to have any rain. If I have them on like 1 and 10, then we're going to have rain sometimes, and the rain is going to be very long. I don't want to have either of them, nor snow. So we're going to do that. We can do either put those to 0 or just uncheck can rain, can snow. The next option is sea level. So if it's currently set to 0.1, but if we drag it up, you'll see that our island is now covered in water. No, that's not what we want. But you can manage it however you want. You can kind of play around with it. If you don't want any water, you can put it on 0. And you'll see that we just have a big desert plain. We're going to put it on 0.1 because I think I'm kind of happy with how that looks. We can probably even bump it up a little bit just to make sure that the beach is a little bit more covered. So let's put it on 0.10 maybe. That's a little bit too high. 0.108. As you can see, it does change quite a lot depending on like how high you have the water. So play around with this however you want it. Then you have snow level as well. If you have snow enabled, you can kind of just play around with how much snow you want to have on the map. Next option is moon. But for us to be able to see what the moon does, we have to turn it into night. And we have another option called time below it. If we drag this to until it's night, like this, you'll see that the moon is there. And now, if we play around with the moon, you can change the look of the moon. If you want to have it a half moon, if you want to have it like full moon, you can have that. Or if you want to have a half moon on the other side. That's basically how it does. It just changes how the moon looks. And then with the time, obviously, you can play around with if you want to have day, night, or evening. This does change automatically while you're playing the game, unless you've changed the settings on the right, which we'll explain soon. Let's get into the options on the right. So there's a lot. It might look a little bit overwhelming. That's totally fine. So azimuth here, what it does is if you look at the sun now and I drag it, you'll see that it rotates the sun basically. It's basically if you want to have the sun in a different place. If you're working on a map that's supposed to be realistic to the world, that might be when you want to move the position of the sun. Bias, what it does is if you put this on 0 and then change the time, you'll see that it's basically always night. It's never going to be pitch black, but it's always going to be night. If you drag this up all the way, it's just going to be day basically. So you can play around with the bias with however you want it. If you want it to be default, kind of leave it in the middle-ish, and then you can see that it rotates between night and day. For horror maps, and the map that I'm working on, which is a horror map, I have bias set to 0, so that it's night always, basically. Next up, we have different options. So if you have the bias set so that you have a day and night rotation, you will have dawn, you will have midday, you will have dusk, you will have midnight, and you will have sun. So if we click dawn, for example, it'll change until dawn. And in here now, we can change the settings for the dawn. If we want to have the sun be red, for example, we can just drag that to red. If we want to have it to be yellow, we can drag the yellow up. Or if we want to have it blue, we can just leave it on blue. You'll see how the sun changes a lot of the looks on the maps. So definitely do be careful with this. But if we leave it on something like that, a little bit reddish, a little bit yellowish, you'll have that dawn look. If we go into the sea and we change it to red, you'll see that the sea is red. If we change it to just green, you'll see that it's green, and so on. But if we click midday now, you'll see that it looks completely different. Go back to dawn, it looks green again. So basically, these are the different times it goes through, if that makes sense. So you can make it look very unique in different lightnings. So midnight, if you want to have it be, let's say, let's go here and just go into clouds. If we want the clouds to be red, we can make them red, and that's only during the night. So if we go to dusk, you'll see that they're not red anymore by going down here. Well, they're kind of red, but not as red as it was during the night. So what you would do in the lighting tab is go through the different ones here, play around with the colors of the different things like the clouds, the fog, and stuff like that until you get something that you're happy with. All right, in the next video, we're going to talk a bit about navigation, and we're going to talk a bit about nodes. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on.